at church a mother. Thanks be to God, his own mother. And he calls us, of course, to honor his mother. Why? Because, well, of course, Jesus follows his own commandments, right? Wouldn't that be terrible? No one likes a person who makes rules and then doesn't follow them. Like, Dad, you told me not to eat the candy bar, and now you're eating it. Right? That's no fun. I remember those days. I'm sure you do too. Honor your mother. The Lord, certainly. I mean, can there be any question that the Lord honored his mother? And when he was hanging on the cross, one of the last things he did, it's always important to remember, at the end of one's life, we sort of wait to hear what they're going to say. We want to be there for the last things they say, because we want them to say the most important things. Because usually, the last things you do would be the most important thing. But what are the last things Jesus did? Well, he gave to his apostles his body and blood in the Eucharist. He made them priests. He prayed that they would always be one. And while he was hanging on the cross, he gave him a mother. John, behold your mother. And when he did that for John, it's always been the faith of the church that he gave to all of us. Mary is our mother. As our mother. Nothing's better than a mother's love. Forget about, look at little Lucas over there. Lucas at the beginning of Master's Creed. No offense, David. But he was on the way being passed to his mom, and he got there crying. He sat down with his mom, and forget about it. I'm so happy. Well, sort of. Yeah. Nothing like a mother's love. So let me say a few things about our mother, Mary. Let me say a few things about Mary. First and foremost, she protects her children. Yesterday morning, I had Mass at the Carmelite Monastery in Buffalo, and it was a Mass for this group of Italians, a bunch of old-timers, who at their parish, they used to have this statue, Madonna della Divina Provvidenza, Our Lady of Divine Providence. Now the statue's at the Carmelite Monastery. And so every once a year, they have this, one Saturday in August, they'll have a Mass in honor of Our Lady of Divine Providence. And the statue's there, right? I said the Mass. But there was another priest there, 90 years old, Monsignor Dino Lorenzetti, who's just about the best priest we have around here. And Monsignor Lorenzetti grew up in the parish where this statue once was. And he was saying, that this statue right now, Mary in one arm is holding our Lord, and in the other arm she's got her hand like this, and they put flowers in her hand, And he was saying, when that statue was the way it was originally, she didn't have flowers in her hands. She had a club. Club. And what does that club mean? It means you better stay away from my children, or I'm going to get you. Because mothers, in some ways, you'd almost rather mess with dad than with mom, right? Not as the kid, but as like the friend, right? Yeah. Because mothers are protective of their children. You don't want to mess with the mother bear, right? Mary protects her children. Absolutely. Can there be any doubt? There can't be. There can't be. That's why the Legion of Mary, the old Legion of Mary founded by the great Irishman Frank Duff, who saved many prostitutes from a life of real sorrow. Frank Duff, a layman, great layman, started the Legion of Mary. Legion of Mary always begins its prayers with the verse from the Song of Solomon. The verse that says, "Who is she that comes forth like the morning rising, as fair as the moon, as bright as the sun, as terrible as any army dressed in battle array?" What's that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It's a reference from the Old Testament that has, since the earliest days of the church, been applied by the fathers of the church to Mary. Who is she that comes forth like the morning rising? Right? I love driving up to Kendall at 7 in the morning, 7:15 in the morning. It's like so peaceful, you know. Birds are singing, it's quiet. Fair as the morning, as fair as the moon, as bright as the sun, as terrible as any army dressed in velvet. What does that mean? It means Mary, well, a sweet, perfect mother, is ready to kick behind when necessary. That's what it means. That's what it means. Sometimes we need it. Absolutely. I need it right now. Tell you that much. Absolutely. And time and again in my life, I remember in the seminary, one of my friends said, man, I need my behind kicked, and I know I need to kick it. Mary. Yep. Because she's like any mother. You get on the right track, son. Right? Absolutely. But she does it with love. I always feel want to get life on track, feel you need direction in your life, get close to your Heavenly Mother. Number one, Mary protects and directs her children. Number two, Mary is the model for the life of the church. She shows the church and every member of the church how it ought to live. How? Two ways. One, she's in heaven. That's where we go. The kingdom of heaven. We're citizens of the kingdom of heaven by virtue of our baptism. That's our eternal home. She's there. Two, she said yes. She said yes to God. She said yes to Christ. And she said yes to the Lord, but it wasn't easy. Remember the angel Gabriel appeared to her and said, Mary. Actually, he didn't say Mary. He said, Hail, full of grace. Full of grace. Meaning filled with grace. That's where we get the whole thing with the Immaculate Conception. She's full of grace. This is biblical. Full of grace. There's no room for anything but grace, which means there's no sin in that woman. Full of grace. Not half full of grace. Not mostly full of grace. Hail, full of grace. That's the angel Gabriel in the Bible. Mary, without sin. Hail, full of grace. You are going to have a son. How am I going to have a son? I'm a poor, 15-year-old Israelite girl who's as insignificant as I am the most insignificant. How is this going to happen? I've never been with a man. The angel says, the Holy Spirit will overshadow you. Do not be afraid, Mary. And what does she say at the end? It's right out of the Gospel of Luke. She says, yes, fiat, may it be done to me as you have said. She said yes to Christ. Yes, that's the way every disciple of Christ is called to live. Say yes to Christ. Say yes to Christ before we say yes to anything else. Christ, I'm going to say yes to you before I say yes to power. I'm going to say yes to you, Christ, before I say yes to riches. Christ, I'm going to say yes to you before I say yes to prestige or honor or comfortability or anything else. Christ, I'm going to say yes to you first, no matter what. You come first. And why does Christ come first? It's automatic. I mean, if you really think about it, it's automatic because everything else is passing away, right? I mean, look at Father Mark. My hair's going gray. I'm a fading flower. At least I got hair, right? Everything fades away, but Christ lives and reigns forever. So saying yes to Him, that's the way to do it. Who's the one who shows us the way to do it? Who else? Our mother. That's what mothers do. Show you the right way to do things. Mothers, our teachers. The first teachers, along with our fathers. Big time. Big time. And some people would say to me, some people ask me, oh, what's the biggest problem in the church? I said, well, where do you want to begin? Right? There's a lot of problems in some. I mean, no doubt about it. We gotta get a lot of things in order in here. Things have kind of fallen apart. Not our parish, but the church, especially in our country. And we need a lot of holiness. What we really need, the Pope said yesterday to a large group of seminarians, we need brothers to be saints. That's what we need. We need to be saints. And no doubt, that's what the church needs, right? What does the church need? The church needs saints. Absolutely. Want to solve problems in the church? That's it. But if somebody said, well, more particularly, Father, what do we really need? I would say, man, what we really need from, I'm not talking about the bishops or the priests or anything like that. There's a lot of changes that need to take place in our hearts. But for all of us, what we really need is commitment. To say yes yes before everything else. So important. So Mary is protector and director of her children. She is the model of the church's life, primarily because she said yes. And she is, as Archbishop Fulton called her, the world's first love. She is so, her love is so wondrous. It's so mysterious. It's so beautiful. It's just like, sometimes at Mass, stand up here at the altar and look out, sometimes you see the little kid right there with his mother, her mother, and just totally at peace. And it's like, everybody wants that in their life. Not with their mom, right? I mean, you want that when you're a little kid, maybe 6 months or 1 or 2, maybe 3, but not when you're 7, right? God forbid, 30 or 50. You don't want to sit there with your mom, right? Heavenly Mother? Absolutely. Absolutely. Why? Because the church has called her through the centuries by many titles. One of them is refuge. Refuge in the storms of life. Refuge for a bunch of refugees. Refuge, the church calls her the refuge of sinners. People who are dealing with the storms and the trials and the travails and the difficulties of life. In the midst of that, to be able to turn to the heart of Mary and cast our cares upon her. Hard topic. People say, well, why don't I just go straight to Jesus? Well, how did Jesus come to you? Well, how did Jesus come to us? Well, he came to us through this woman, through Mary, through her womb. Well, God does everything perfectly. If that's the best way for him to come to us, through Mary, then stands to reason that the best way for us to go to him is through Mary. We don't go to Mary for Mary. We go to Mary because she takes us to her son. Absolutely. St. Louis de Montfort, just to close, gave a beautiful example about this. He said that there's like imagine a boy in a kingdom, and he wants to give a gift to the king, but all he has is this apple. It's the only thing he's got, because he's just a poor little boy. And that apple's kind of a tarnished apple. It's bruised, it's got some little gash in it. And he can't give it to the king, because it's all beat up. And so he says, what am I going to do with this apple? So he says, well, I'm going to give it to his mother, the queen. And what she's going to do is she's going to get out her knife and she's going to cut away from that apple all the bruises and all the nicks and all the things, and she's going to slice it, and she's going to put it in a golden bowl. And she's going to present it to her son, the king. And he's going to rejoice when he sees my gift. Because my mother is going to make it beautiful for him. Folks, this is deep stuff. It's beautiful stuff. It should strike the depths of the human heart. Not because they're nice words, but because of the beauty of the love of this mother. So we want to turn to her more deeply in our life. Absolutely. We want to pray to her, confide our cares to her, say the rosary, right? We want to just be sons and daughters of our mother. Because she's a perfect mother. She gives a pure and perfect love to her children. And the Lord gave us her to be our mother. So may we draw closer to her. And she be us.